First Class Productions.
The Capcom classic DuckTales is not only my favorite game on the NES, but also my most beloved Game Boy game. Even after all these years, it's still so much fun to mess around with the pogo cane while listening to one of the most extraordinary 8-bit soundtracks there is. That makes me wonder even more why so many people aren't aware that this game has a sequel both on NES and Game Boy, DuckTales 2.
To be fair, I never saw or heard about this game when I was a kid, so I was shocked when I read about it in some random article online in my late teens.
Released 4 years after the original in 1993, it has become a rather obscure title as this was near the end of the NES's lifespan. Only last year was I finally able to play both versions, which were developed by Make Software and published once again by Capcom.
So it begs the question, is DuckTales 2 a hidden gem that needs to be rediscovered, or is it forgotten because it's below average or even worse? Which version is superior? Please join me as we once again try to make the richest duck in the world even more filthy rich.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
The game opens with a dialogue between Huey and Scrooge McDuck. Huey found a piece of a treasure map drawn by Fergus McDuck. Of course, Scrooge, the greedy old bastard, needs to find the hidden treasure, because there's no such thing as having enough money. At its core, this game shares a lot of traits with its predecessor. Play through 5 levels in any order, get help or advice from different characters from the show, and kill every living creature on Earth with your Super Pogo Cane 2000+. Scrooge can still swing his cane like a golf club and use it like a pogo stick to bounce around, defeat enemies and reach higher platforms. He has thought of some new ways to utilize his trusty cane. Now you can pull objects and levers, hang onto hooks and even swing yourself across gaps. This allows for more complex levels and adds variety to the gameplay.
I'm happy to report that the controls have been tweaked a bit to make it more accessible.
You don't have to push A, B and down to pogo jump anymore. That was a pain in the ass sometimes, especially for newer players. Now you only have to push B while in the air. It's a small change, but it makes the experience so much smoother. Every character except Mrs. Beakley returns. That means no more ice cream orgies. I don't know what to feel. Instead we meet Gyro a few times, who we previously only saw in the bonus stage. He gives us some sweet upgrades for the cane, which we will get into soon. Sadly, no new items have been added. They even took one of them away. The M coin, which gave us brief invincibility, is missing entirely. But I guess the new cane features make up for the lack of item innovation.
That should cover the basics, so let's check out the levels.
We have a highly accurate map where Scotland and Egypt are right next to each other. When you pick a stage, Launchpad McQuack gives you a little information about the location. I guess that's nice the first time around, but he does it every single time you pick a stage, even when you've already visited it. Quit lecturing me, Launchpad. You can fast forward with start, but it still grates on my nerves.
Like I said, you can play the 5 levels in any order you like. Just like with the first game, I have a preferred order, but for a different reason than last time.
I prefer to start with Niagara. Right off the bat, we see that this game pushes the graphical capabilities of the NES a little harder. Whereas the first game only had static backgrounds, here we have flowing waterfalls which look great. We see blocks that can't be broken. Yet. This game once again has many secret areas. Here you can pull a block, but at first I didn't see the point as nothing seemed to be up here. Only by pure accident did I discover that you can swing the cane while jumping. Could you do that in the first game? I seriously didn't know and I had to look it up. Yes, you could.
We learn new things every day. Only took me about 30 years to figure that out.
This way I could destroy the hidden block and reach a new area. At first I couldn't pull it off. Hold left or right, jump and push B. The big treasure chest holds the first piece of the map. Well, technically it's the second piece, since we started with one. After an earthquake, we're trapped. Thankfully, Bubba comes to rescue us. He tells us in perfect English to be careful of a treasure box that can lock us up. I have no clue what he means. Webby asks us to help Gyro, who has been trapped in a landslide. This thing turns into a rubber raft when you push it into the water. By swinging the cane against the wall, you move it. Just like Huey told us. Here we meet Gyro, who gives us our first cane upgrade. an iron adapter. With it we can break objects we couldn't otherwise. Jumping across the logs feels awkward. I don't know why exactly, but often Scrooge doesn't jump when I push A here. I guess my timing is off. Dewey tells us about a firecracker that we need to jump on 5 times. That's awfully specific, Dewey. How could you possibly know that? Surprisingly, the firecracker is a fire duck that has a pretty obvious pattern, but it's a bitch to land a hit. Shouldn't be too big of a problem though. Collecting the treasure once again rewards us with $1 million. Overall, Niagara is a fairly innocent stage that eases us into the game and has no real challenge except maybe the logs and the boss. It's fun to use the hooks to get to the treasure and I like the visual presentation. After finishing a level, an item shop pops up. Yes, we can actually buy items in this game, like the most expensive cake in the world. You can only buy one cake though and use it in the pause menu. Great when you're low on health during a boss fight. It replaces the ability to spend $3 million on health within a level. In contrast to the first game, you lose all the money you collected within a stage when you die. The save lets you keep it, but only for one stage. After that you need to buy another one. The Good Mojo doll is an extra life and the Continue globe predictably gives you a continue. In the first DuckTales you could find 2 stars within levels which gave you extra hit points. In this game you can buy 2 special energy in the shop.
All of these items seem very expensive, but you can spend your hard-earned money with a good conscience. The amount of money you have is irrelevant for the good ending.
The addition of the item shop makes the game easier. There were no continues in the first DuckTales and no way to store items. In case you got a map piece, you get to see how many you have collected. Next I like to play Bermuda, which takes place on a pirate ship. Louis tells us that we're stuck. Then all of a sudden lightning destroys the mast. Wow, that was great, let's go! What the fuck just happened? Was this really necessary? This left me scratching my head in confusion. To the right there is another blocked path and there is no way to get there. We can use the cane to shoot the cannon. Awesome! With the lever we can activate the conveyor belt to get the treasure. The part with the hooks and flying birds dropping shells is annoying at first. Don't move when they fly at you and that way you'll avoid the shells. The map piece is in a secret area, behind another secret area. The double secrets return. Here is another cool way to use the cane. Gyro gives us a hammer adapter which makes our golf swing stronger. The pirate is the easiest pushover of a boss in this game. Hang on to the hooks and make sure to stay above him. Bermuda is a decent stage but nothing really sticks out and the enemies are forgettable. It has some nice secrets but so far I'd rank it as the weakest level we've seen so far in this series. Mew is the third stage I chose. It feels like Niagara at first. Blue sky, brown rocks. After a while some different architecture emerges, but I still have trouble telling these levels apart at times. Enemies include giant duck statues which can be a pain to avoid. Gyro gives us the third and final upgrade. With the power adapter we can pull objects we couldn't pull before. Now we have officially upgraded to the Super Duper Mega Pogo Cane 3000 Ultra Plus. Gaze in despair, all you pathetic monsters. Nothing can stop us now. Well, maybe except these mermaid douchebags with spears. Louis tells us about a puzzle. Remember these symbols. The puzzle itself is hidden. What did you expect? It's quite simple, really. Completing it causes the island to rise and the water to drain, revealing a new path where we find the first hidden treasure worth $1 million. This way also leads to the next map piece, and I gotta tell ya, this is the most boring part of the game. Better turn off your brain here. It takes forever to smash all the blocks and rocks. And then you have to make your way back and do it all over again because everything respawns. Treasure hunting sure isn't as thrilling as you'd imagine. Maybe this is a case of being too realistic? The boss is unusual because the pogo jump doesn't work on him. Instead you have to wait for him to stomp the ground to make blocks fall down and then swing your cane at them, smacking the robot to pieces. Then jump on the little red ball. Doing this 5 times can be a chore because the pattern is completely random. Often he shoots, moves to the other side of the screen and shoots again without ever stomping the ground. That makes this the worst boss fight of the series. The level itself is surprisingly linear with hardly any secret areas. So I don't know about this one. It's about as average as Bermuda. Nothing great, but it gets the job done. With all the upgrades equipped, it really doesn't matter which stage you pick next. I'm going with Egypt. It starts outside, but most of the stage takes place in a pyramid, which is an intriguing setting. How's it going, Uncle Scrooge? Well, geez, I don't know. I've been falling through trapdoors, almost drowned in quicksand, got attacked by mummies and goddamn bugs. I hate bugs. Other than that, it's been a jolly good time, Louis. Thank you very much. In one part we can fall through the quicksand to get to another area where we meet Dewey. He tells us about a riddle. 1 is 3, 3 is 2, 4 is 1 and 2 is 4. Seriously, what the hell are you talking about? Here we have numbers on the floor. Was it referring to an order? There are several ways you could interpret these numbers. Essentially, it means that we have to pogo jump 3 times on 1, 2 times on 3 and so on. Solving the riddle rewards us with another map piece. I've already solved the puzzle, smartass! By jumping on the arrow blocks, small platforms appear for a few seconds. Not very challenging. The part with the cobras in the quicksand is pretty annoying. Huey tells us another riddle. The one who sees the light of the sun will find the way. Well, we're in a fucking pyramid and I haven't seen the sun for days. In a secret room we find a mirror and a beam of sunlight. Jeez, I wonder what I have to do here. Solving this brain teaser rewards us with the second and final hidden treasure. With our cane we can hang onto platforms to lower them. The boss is a pharaoh duck who emerges from the quicksand and shoots at us. It can be challenging at first and I even died here. In contrast to the first game, you start right at the boss when you die, which is a relief. Egypt is a pretty cool level with tons of secrets to find. My biggest problem is that you have to repeat many sections multiple times and that can be exhausting. It's definitely the most challenging level so far and I mean that in a positive way. The only stage left is Scotland. This level reminds me of Transylvania as it takes place in a castle with spooky enemies like flying hands with lanterns and frogs. I'm getting minecart flashbacks. I hated those in the first game. Thankfully, these sections are much easier here. Check out these platforms. Is this a mistake? It looks like the black hole is in the front of Scrooge. Maybe that's part of the mystery. The way to the map piece is a total bitch. Your timing has to be perfect. Some of the knights come to life, but it's easy to spot which ones will wake up. There are several instances where you need upgrades to get to certain areas. And that's why we get those upgrades first, kids. The boss is a wimpy wizard who hardly puts up a fight. I find this stage to be very unremarkable. It has some challenging moments, but especially compared to Transylvania, it's bland. It's my least favorite stage of the game for sure. Now we have 6 map pieces, but where is the 7th? Believe it or not, the final map piece is found in the shop after you buy at least 1 star. For a bargain of $1 million, it's ours. What kind of shop is this anyway? Now that we have all map pieces, we get to play a secret level which is in the basement of the Scotland castle. Therefore, underground looks very similar to Scotland. It also has the same enemies, which makes sense as it's the same place, but I would have liked to see a little more variety. The biggest difference is the addition of water sections. You have to choose between 2 paths. There's no way to see both parts in one go, similar to African mines. I don't like that. Which way do I prefer? I think the top. The difficulty is about the same, but it has fewer bullshit moments. The bottom path has one part that made me pull my hair out. It's embarrassing how long it took for me to figure out what to do here. The boss is the wizard again, but this time he means business. In fact, I'd say it's the only boss that gave me real trouble at first. His magic spell turns you into a goddamn frog. You can't attack him in this state. At least, I still have my hat. God bless cake and praise be thy frosting. Beating the wizard gives us the secret treasure of McDuck. Back on the level select screen, Flintheart Glomgold tells us that he has kidnapped Webby on the pirate ship. So just like in the first game, the final level is a stage we have already visited. This time, however, we don't have to replay the entire stage. Remember the locked area we couldn't get to? Now this is the only place we can get to. Here we meet Glomgold and give him all the treasure we worked so hard to collect. Instead of giving us Webby, he turns into the goddamn D1000. Badass. Not so badass is that this is the easiest boss in the game, even easier than the pirate. With the D1000 defeated, Glomgold sinks the ship along with all the treasure. We grab Webby and get the hell out of here. The ending shows the characters watching the sunken ship, being glad that they still have each other. It turns out Launchpad saved the treasure. Without the secret treasure, they wonder where on earth it is. Getting the secret treasure gives us the better ending where Scrooge shows it to us. For way too long. I get it, he's a greedy little mallard and he's obsessed. Didn't need a cutscene to tell me that. After about 45 seconds, we see the final screen with the amount of money we collected.
Once again, there is a third ending if you beat the game with $0. It's much less tedious to get this time.
Sure, you still have to avoid the treasure in the levels, but you don't have to wait for the timer to drop to 1 second. Why? There is no time limit, so all you have to do is spend $1 million in the shop after each level and you're good to go. The bad ending shows that Glomgold found the treasure of McDuck, making him the greatest adventurer in the world. At least this ending isn't as depressing as in the prequel.
Like last time, I want to check out the Game Boy version as well. I did not expect this, but there are quite a few differences between the two ports.
Once again, the levels are similar, but not exactly. Some parts might feel familiar, but mostly level layout and enemy placement is different. Knowing the NES levels only helps you so far. There's more though. Whereas the NES version only gave us a boring snippet of dialogue at the start, here we get different images, adding visual appeal. There are only 6 map pieces instead of 7. The one in the shop is missing. No great loss there. Also missing from the shop are the energy stars. These are now found in treasure chests like in DuckTales 1.
Here you can use the save within a level to save all the money you've collected up to that point. This only works once.
You'll notice that everything is much more expensive on Game Boy. It's no big issue in my opinion though. In addition to the items on the NES, we get a few more. The M coin is back, giving us brief invincibility. The signpost makes signs appear that show the way to the boss. X-ray glasses make you see all of the hidden treasure. Both of these items only work until you die. Some chests tell you how many other chests are left in the stage you're in. The watch stops time for a bit, freezing all enemies. The Scrooge bomb kills every enemy on screen. It also works as a curse word.
Scrooge bomb.
Kinda like an F-bomb, equally satisfying. Walkie-talkies can make Launchpad pick you up and leave the level. Then there's one last item we'll talk about a little later.
I really have no clue why the NES is missing all of these items. For the most part, I think they are great additions and add more variety to the game.
It's advised to play the levels in the same order as on NES for the same reasons. In this game, I mostly start with Bermuda. Why? You'll see. First off, I got to say that the rain looks pretty impressive on Game Boy. The stupid cutscene with Louie is missing. I wonder why. Some enemies are tougher. Whereas every single enemy except bosses only took 1 hit on the NES, here some of them take 2 or 3, like the pirates. One thing that I find annoying is that dialogue and text in general always make text boxes appear, and they take up the whole screen. Yes, I know what the X-ray glasses do, now get out of my face! The reason why I play this stage first is this part right here. Not only do the hooks come loose when you hang on them, which is a pain in and of itself. No, new enemies in forms of fish jump out of the water and mess up my jumps constantly. Sometimes I even missed the hooks completely. I can't tell you how many times I've died here and it's infuriating. So why would I even bother playing other levels first when I'll most likely lose all of my lives on this one spot? It's horse shit and you know it. Other than this, the stage is fairly easy, with some puzzles being slightly different. And we can shoot a crab with a cannon. Don't mess with Scrooge, bro. The boss is even easier here. So overall, decent stage with one of the worst parts of the game. I prefer the other version. We see Launchpad and Scrooge fly back after beating the stage. On the NES we only saw this when asking Launchpad. Niagara feels very similar and we literally see Scrooge jumping out of the helicopter. No broken bones here. At first I didn't know how to get to these treasures. If only I had used my brain for a moment. The fish are back. I didn't know anyone could hate fish so much, but I do now. On the collapsing bridge we get some significant slowdown. In the Game Boy version of DuckTales 1, the bosses only took 4 hits. Here they take 5. I hate the Firecracker. He gave me some trouble as I often miscalculated my jumps. This is a really good stage that doesn't have to be afraid of its big brother. The duck statues in Mew take 3 hits now.
Scrooge bomb.
I love the flowers. They make us fly much further here. This version reminds me of the Amazon more than the NES version did. Boulders are back and we can even jump on them to reach higher places. Pretty cool, even though my first instinct was to avoid them completely. If you want to get the map piece and the upgrade, you have to either leave the level with Launchpad or play it twice. I'm not a fan of that concept. The puzzle is a little different thanks to the smaller screen of the Game Boy. The path to the hidden treasure is completely different, thank God. I'd rather deal with another fucking fish than put myself through this boring fiasco again. I'd say the boss is a little harder this time because you don't have as much space to avoid the falling blocks. No big hassle though, especially with a cake in your inventory. Egypt with its quicksand looks really cool here as well. This time the layout of the stage actually resembles a pyramid. Again, it's the most complicated level. Here I first didn't know what to do. Turns out one of the blocks has a mechanism revealing sand falls. Yes, sand falls. They're like waterfalls except they're dry and unpleasant.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Those bugs sound annoying. This puzzle is a little different here as well, with only 3 numbers instead of 4. Not only does this stage have a map piece and hidden treasure, but also an energy star which is almost impossible to find at the very top of the pyramid. In this version I also dislike the parts with the quicksand and cobras. Plus here we have some irritating slowdown as well. The boss is much easier once you figure out the pattern. This is a kick-ass version of Egypt and I think I might even prefer this one. For some reason Scotland gave me lots of grief. First off, I like that you start outside of the castle, but then shit goes down. In the spike section your jumps have to be perfect. But man oh man, this part right here destroyed me. It looks like an easy jump, but I missed it over and over again, resulting in multiple game overs. Make sure to buy a continue globe and don't miss the second and final energy star. Not even that helped. I had to replay the entire game and this time I used my money to buy plenty of lives.
Take a guess what happened.
I died and died and died and died and died and died and died. Also, for a change of pace, I died some more. With only 2 lives left, I finally made this stupid jump and from here on out the level was a piece of cake. Even though the disappearing platforms made me really nervous. The boss is a joke. With the smaller screen, it's much easier to land a hit. I don't like this stage.
It's irritating.
I don't have fun here and once again I can't say that I enjoy the setting. I prefer the NES version, although that's not saying much. Once you've collected every map piece, you're immediately transported to the secret underground level. Here you actually see how you drop down into the basement. We're introduced to an item that's exclusive to this level. The Super Pogo attachment makes you jump higher for a short period of time. It's a cool idea, but you don't get to use it much. Again, there are 2 ways you can go. Both lead to the boss room, and although the boss music is playing, there's no boss. You just collect the treasure of McDuck and that's it. Yeah, anticlimactic, but I didn't like that boss anyway, so no big loss there. The stage itself is fine. It has some nice secret areas and no crappy moments. Now of course we have to beat the D-1000 on the pirate ship. Surprisingly, the boss fight is a little tougher in theory because his legs reach across half the screen. I still beat him on the first try within a few seconds. The endings are exactly the same as before, and this concludes our journey on the Game Boy. The sound is very similar to the first game. Although some enemies sound a bit annoying, most of it is just fine. The music is a little difficult to talk about. The original DuckTales had an amazing soundtrack where every level theme was unique and among the best you can find on their systems. While the music in DuckTales 2 is adequate for what it is, it's not in the same league at all. Most tracks like Scotland or Bermuda, for example, are very unremarkable and you won't find yourself humming the tunes days later. Some of them are downright awful, like Underground. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't like the sound of the soundtrack. Like some tracks are just generic happy music with no personality like Mew or the opening. Not even the boss theme is that great, unfortunately. The map music has grown on me a bit and the Egypt tune is atmospheric and a nice fit. What puzzles me the most is that the Game Boy version legitimately sounds much better. I'm not kidding, check this out. Niagara on NES is a decent track, but on Game Boy I genuinely love it. It sounds more complete and all around more pleasant to the ears. And I feel that way with quite a few tracks. Underground still sounds terrible though.
Since there are a few good tracks on here, they should be honored. Here are my top 3 songs from DuckTales 2.
Number 3. The last piece we hear is upbeat and makes us feel rewarded for our accomplishments. Number 2. Once you get past the first couple of seconds, this track gets really awesome. It's a shame we only get to hear it for such a short bit. I wish this was the actual theme for Bermuda. Number 1. This is the only song in the game that is memorable to me, except the title music. The Game Boy version is a pleasure to my ears and I love returning to this stage because of it.
Let's wrap this up. This is a tough one.
In theory, this should be a better game than the original. It has more depth due to the upgrades and you can replay the stages as often as you like. The item shop makes it less of a pain to beat the game, but you could argue that it makes the game too easy. There are some tricky parts, but overall this is not a hard game. It doesn't have to be. I like games that I can just pick up and play without getting frustrated. I love the different ways you use the cane, and just from a gameplay perspective, this game is technically superior to its predecessor. Exploring the levels is really fun with a ton of secrets around every corner. Visually, it's also a step up with nice weather effects and waterfalls that make the world feel more alive. It's one of the best looking games on both systems. The optional quest for the map pieces is a great addition for the bravest explorers. Some of them are very tough to find without a guide.
So why is it that I'd rather play the original despite most aspects being better here? Sure, one aspect might be that I'm more familiar with the first one. I've been thinking about this for a while now and I guess I can nail it down to two main aspects.
First, the original is more colorful. Just looking at clips from the Amazon, Himalayas or the moon make me want to play the game all over again. Now look at DuckTales 2. Almost every stage has either brown or gray backgrounds and it feels very repetitive, especially with Niagara and Mew looking so similar. But to be fair, I love that Bermuda resembles a ship. Egypt is probably the most unique setting. The second aspect is the music. This game proves to me just how important a good score is. I'd imagine this game would be much more memorable if the soundtrack was on par or even better than the first. Whenever I hear the Moon theme or Transylvania, I think of all the good times I had with DuckTales. Hearing the Scotland tune doesn't bring out any sort of emotion whatsoever. The boss fights are kind of forgettable too, but to be fair, the bosses in the first game aren't spectacular either. With a better soundtrack and more varied visuals, this could have been an unforgettable classic. Instead, it's a rather obscure and expensive game, released late in the NES lifecycle. Although the Game Boy version is a bit harder because of two bullshit sections, I think I prefer that one overall. On a monochrome screen, I can't complain about the lack of color, can I?
While I couldn't care less about the treasure or the arrow box, I do think the X-ray glasses, the watch and the bomb are great additions.
I like finding the energy stars as opposed to buying them. Add that to the superior sound quality and I'd say we have a winner here. The Game Boy version is fairly easy to find and you can play the NES version on the Disney Afternoon Collection with a rewind feature and boss rush mode.
All this might have sounded very negative, but don't get me wrong, this is still an impressive game, both on NES and Game Boy. It's just hard to live up to such a classic like the original.
If you have the chance, please play either of these games. After all, it's still DuckTales we're talking about here, and I'm confident you will enjoy the gameplay improvements found here. Just maybe lower your expectations a little bit if you hold the first game in such high esteem as I do. It being my favorite NES and Game Boy game, you know.
I'll leave you with this takeaway. Some video game sequels get the silver medal treatment. They're outshined by their big brothers, but if you love DuckTales or just want a solid platformer, give this one a try.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching the second episode of Season 2. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on Instagram. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.